Welcome back. The Chinese Communist government appears to be pushing a new account of events that presents President Xi Jinping as taking early action to fight coronavirus, according to today's New York Times. But in doing so, the authorities there are also admitting for the first time that Xi Jinping was aware of the virus before he first spoke publicly about it. Meanwhile, Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton has been calling out China for its response to this outbreak, suggesting the virus may have come from China's biological warfare program. The Chinese ambassador to the United States responded this: "It's very dangerous to stir up suspicion, rumors, and spread them among the people. For one thing, this will create panic. Another thing, that it will offend up of racial discrimination, xenophobia, all these things that will really harm our joint efforts to combat the virus." Of course, there are all kinds of speculation and rumors. So far, at least 69,000 people have been infected with coronavirus. Over 1,600 have died. Joining me right now is Senator Tom Cotton himself. He sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. He has been speaking out about China's response to this fatal virus. Senator, it is good to have you today. Thanks very much for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Maria.
And you were among the first lawmakers to really raise a red flag on coronavirus, warning your Senate colleagues nearly 2 weeks ago that this is worse than Chernobyl. Your words, not mine, that China has been lying about it from the very beginning. Assess the situation as you know it today.
Maria, the situation is very grave, in part because, as you say, China was lying from the beginning and they're still lying today, and also because there are so many unknowns about this virus. For example, how many people one person can infect once they have the virus, the extent to which it's contagious before one is symptomatic, or the mortality rate. That's why I've been saying for almost a month now that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, to quote Benjamin Franklin, and why the president was so smart to ban travel coming from China just a couple weeks ago, so we didn't have more than 20,000 people landing in our country every single day from mainland China.
Well, you know, it's pretty extraordinary. And then they criticized the United States for putting that travel ban in effect. And the fact is they're criticizing us for the travel ban. But isn't it true that they've got people locked down in their homes?
Maria, they have more than 70 million people now under quarantine, and you've probably seen the videos online from social media sites, as have I, of the Chinese Communist Party's police beating people who they think might have coronavirus, or trying to keep them locked inside of their apartments, or quarantining them in large hospitals or what have you. They have not been transparent at all, and they need to be.
And this is one of the issues, because you had initially the doctor who was a whistleblower, in effect, who said, look, start wearing protective gear because we've got this coronavirus happening. He was arrested. He was shamed in the press. And unfortunately, now he's dead.
Yeah, this is a tragic story. Dr. Li Wenliang, who was an ophthalmologist who blew the whistle on coronavirus in early December. The Chinese Communist Party made him sign a statement disavowing that and threatening punishment. He later came down with the virus and himself has died, leaving behind a pregnant wife and a young child. He's become something of a martyr among the Chinese people, who, let's remember, are the first and the worst victims of the Chinese Communist Party's incompetence and dishonesty.
At the same time, we need to really understand why these diseases keep coming out of China. I mean, we remember SARS and MERS, and now it's coronavirus. We've been told that this originated in an open seafood market, where you've got a market that you've got bats and cats and pigs and all sorts of animals all at once. But there is also speculation that perhaps it did not originate there. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, so Maria, here's what we do know. This virus did not originate in the Wuhan animal market. Epidemiologists who are widely respected from China, who have published or studied in the international journal The Lancet, have demonstrated that several of the original cases did not have any contact with that food market. The virus went into that food market before it came out of that food market. So we don't know where it originated, but we do know that we have to get to the bottom of that. We also know that just a few miles away from that food market is China's only biosafety level 4 super laboratory that researches human infectious diseases. Now, we don't have evidence that this disease originated there, but because of China's duplicity and dishonesty from the beginning, we need to at least ask the question to see what the evidence says. And China right now is not giving any evidence on that question at all.
So this super lab that you referred to, this super lab is the only one of its kind in this area, in Wuhan, in the province, that area. And what do they do at this super lab?
It's unclear, Maria. We have such laboratories ourselves in the United States, run by our military, in large part done for preventative purposes, or trying to discover vaccines, or to protect our own soldiers. China is obviously very secretive about what happens at the Wuhan laboratory. We don't know, again, where this virus originated. That's why it's so important that we at least ask the questions and get the evidence. But China continues to block our ability to ask those questions and get that evidence.
But in terms of getting to the bottom of it, the Centers for Disease Control wanted to go into China. The U.S. has offered a lot of help, including sending the CDC in there to investigate exactly where this originated and how severe it is. But they said no, right?
That's right. The Chinese government has consistently blocked American scientists, who are obviously the very best in the world, from going to Wuhan, going to Hubei, trying to provide assistance to make sure that this virus is contained to the greatest extent possible, to discover its origins, to shed light on what that may mean for successful testing and vaccines. But the Chinese Communist Party continues to refuse that offer of assistance from the United States.
Now, the Chinese ambassador called the notion of biological warfare, quote, absolutely crazy, accusing you of trying to spread misinformation and panic. What's your response there? I mean, we don't want to create panic, but at the same time, people need to be educated in terms of what exists in this region in China.
Well, the burden of proof right now is on the Chinese Communist Party and the ambassador of China and his fellow communists. They have lied consistently about this virus from the beginning, so we should not take their word at face value. And no, we don't want to have a public panic, but we do want to err on the side of caution when so much is unknown, and that is consistently what China has not done. By consistently lying to its own people and to the world, they have created a situation where we have not been able to take the preventative measures that we might have, and we have not been able to err on the side of caution.
Tell me what the downplaying of this has done. In other words, the Chinese knew about the coronavirus back in November of 2019. They proceeded to send a delegation to the White House to shake everybody's hand to do a phase 1 China deal. They sent the largest ever delegation to Davos at the end of January. Do you think the downplaying of this virus has actually exacerbated it?
Oh, there's no doubt about that, Maria. You know, the first cases indicated in early December, which meant they were transmitted sometime in November. China finally fessed up to the WHO on December 31st. If they had taken action weeks earlier, not only might their own people have been better protected, but the entire world might have been better protected. This is just a pattern of Chinese dishonesty from the very beginning, which continues to this very day. Just a few days ago, we went from a situation where they were reporting only a couple hundred more cases, or maybe 1,000 more cases a day, to almost 14,000 cases in a single day. That wasn't the result of any scientific discovery. That was a political decision to finally reveal what they knew to be true, yet they are still covering up, in all likelihood, the number of cases and deaths from coronavirus inside of China.
And do you think there's anything that we should be doing here in America to hopefully avoid what sounds like is a pandemic coming?
Well, again, I want to commend the president for shutting down travel from China. That was the most important preventative step we could have taken. It's very important that we empower our local and state health officials to test at the broadest possible criteria for anyone who's been to China or been in contact with someone who's China who's showing any indication of the symptoms of coronavirus. It's so critical that we do that, and that the CDC develop effective and quick testing protocols as well, so we don't have a situation where people are infected with the coronavirus but are told that they are not infected, as unfortunately happened just a few days ago in San Diego.
Senator, it's good to have you this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Senator Tom Cotton joining us.